Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of What a Fuster Cluck. I'm your host, Lolita Keys, talking about anything and everything that's front and center on my mind, from health and wellness to culture and politics. And on today's episode, I want to do a part 2 of the episode I released last week. Last week's episode, if you haven't had a chance to listen to it, was titled Radicalized Foot Soldiers When Propaganda Turns Citizens Against Each Other. This week's episode is essentially going to be a part 2 of that, where I continue to tell you about the rate at which the American public and the world in general is being propagandized. And if your worldview cannot hold two truths at once, it's probably propaganda. Today, I'm going to be covering 3 topics. Number 1, the death of Alex Pretti, a 37-year-old Minneapolis nurse, in case you haven't heard. Number 2, the celebrity outcries and hypocrisy. And finally, the arrest of Don Lemon, which I sort of teased in my last episode whether or not that would actually happen. And since I recorded that episode, he has in fact been arrested. Alex Pretti's death was completely preventable, and not just by the officers who shot him, but by Alex himself. I think it's interesting when you really are someone who's still paying attention to mainstream media outlets, whether it's Fox or CNN or NPR or whatever it is, the quickness with which information comes out when it hasn't been completely vetted is honestly astounding. And it just leads to these narratives on both sides of the political aisle. And unless you sort of wait to react or wait for additional information to come out, it's really difficult in the moment to make the best judgment. Now, I am certainly not saying that he deserved to die. But what people on the left don't realize yet, or they do and they're just turning a blind eye to it, is that a few weeks prior to Alex Pretti's death, he was also caught on tape being wildly provocative and agitating to officers while they were trying to conduct an actual arrest of an undocumented migrant with a criminal history. And I'm sorry, that's what happened when he was shot. But even before then, a few weeks before then, he was caught on tape just like practically accosting officers, spitting on them, cursing them out, and kicking a taillight out of one of the vehicles that these agents were leaving the scene in. This is not normal behavior by a sane person, okay? This is unhinged behavior from a guy who has clearly been radicalized. And honestly, it's not about left versus right. It's how we have all been manipulated into these echo chambers, losing sight of shared humanity. Alex Pretti, his shooting was a preventable tragedy fueled by radicalization. On January 24th in Minneapolis, Alex Pretti, a 37-year-old VA nurse and activist, was fatally shot by 2 Border Patrol agents during a scuffle while they were pursuing an undocumented immigrant, Jose Huerta Chuma, who was wanted for domestic assault. The video shows agents tackling him, spotting his licensed gun, and then firing after shouts of "he's got a gun" rang out. But an internal DHS review contradicts the initial claims that he attacked first, showing escalation with pepper spray and strikes. This was the second U.S. citizen killed by federal agents in Minneapolis in the month of January. Pretti's death following the death of Renee Good on January 7th. Now, again, I want to acknowledge Alex's behavior prior to his killing. On January 13th, video surfaced showing Alex Pretti shouting expletives and struggling with agents, spitting on them, and ultimately kicking a taillight out of one of their vehicles. Now, this should have led to an arrest, not an escalation to death. But unfortunately, he was not arrested at that time. The point I'm trying to make is that the guy was no saint. Now, that doesn't mean he deserved to die. But this highlights the number 1, the failures in de-escalation training for federal agents. But number 2, it highlights the fact that What kind of people are out there in the streets wreaking this kind of havoc, being agitators, and kicking the taillight out of a federal vehicle? In what world does that not constitute getting arrested? And the fact that he got away with that once just made him probably more empowered to continue with his absolutely unhinged behavior out in the streets, trying to block actual arrests of undocumented immigrants with criminal histories. Again, they were going after a guy, Jose Chuma, who was wanted for domestic assault. Why are we protecting these criminals in the street? Why are we doing this? What's even more disgusting is, of course, if you listen to left-leaning outlets, they're painting him as a hero, a VA nurse, someone who you'd even want to bring home to your daughter. Like, no. And then many outlets actually went as far as doctoring photographs of him, making him look more attractive and more tan with a fuller head of hair than he actually had. This is how disgusting the media is. Regular Alex Pretti doesn't look good enough for you to feel bad for him. But this AI zhuzhed up version of him is definitely going to make you feel worse for this relatively young, handsome nurse, right? Now, people on the right, of course, were painting him as this unhinged foot soldier of the left. And again, it's just all a hot mess. At the end of the day, he's a human being. He's an American citizen. But honestly, the fact that all of these people are in the streets tells you all you need to know. When life is too good, when you move away from the things that really matter, family, faith, when we lose these things, we find our tribe in politics or worse. And politics is pretty bad. You've got people like Alex Pretti on the left and Nick Fuentes on the right, both appearing to be radicalized, almost savages, chasing causes that are way larger than themselves and stoking the flames of political discourse. Okay. That's all I really want to say about the Alex Pretti murder. And again, the point of my conversation is not to pick a side. It's to remind you that that's what they want you to do. You need to look at the full scope of evidence in all of these cases and decide for yourself what is right, what is wrong, and how can we do better. When we're talking about the broader ICE and Border Patrol situation, obviously, Pretti's death is not isolated, but it is a flashpoint in Trump's mass deportation push. And it has sparked these unbelievable protests in Minneapolis and other places nationwide. But like, why is it always Minneapolis? Why? Because you have unbelievably weak, poor leadership. You have Tim Walz, who is, I'm not even going to go there. And you have Jacob Fry, the mayor, okay, who explicitly told ICE agents to get the, okay, I'm trying not to curse as much, guys, but get the F out is what he said, right, to ICE and Border Patrol, to federal agents trying to conduct their job, telling them to get out and not cooperating. Somebody please help make the case for not deporting criminal undocumented immigrants. Somebody please make the case for why it should be okay for these people to stay in our country, putting our citizens at risk and being a drain on our society and the very things that are there for the American taxpayer. Why is this okay? Someone make this make sense. I am not talking about the migrants who come to this country and actually do have a social security number, actually do pay taxes, or actually do contribute to our society. It's not their fault if their employers are absolutely fine employing someone who's undocumented. You know, that's on them. But all of these surges in cities like Minneapolis and other places in the nation, they're leading to civilian clashes. And this is where things are really just becoming a hot mess. Millions, again, of undocumented migrants are a strain on social systems, our healthcare, our housing. And then you've got Americans facing issues with being able to afford their groceries and inflation. And then you have undocumented and or somewhat legal, which is a slippery slope, right? Are they here for amnesty? How did they come across the border? And they're all getting free phones, debit cards, places to stay. And this is fueling big time resentment, even among American citizens. Let's not forget one of the things Trump ran on, one of the reasons he was elected was to secure the border and get the criminals out, the illegal, undocumented migrant criminals, get them out. Now, we all agree he definitely closed the border, but now he's trying to do phase two of that. And the reality is, deportation isn't easy or pretty. And for all of those people out there wanting to make ICE and Border Patrol agents look like absolute savages, are y'all aware that we already offer cash incentives and flights home to illegal, undocumented migrants? We literally are trying to help you get home and give you some money to get you like started as you get back to wherever home is. And if these people decline, detention follows. This is not cruelty. This is the law. We cannot ignore positive migrant contributions or the need for humane reforms. But we have to acknowledge, while you've got all of these social justice warriors out there in the street treating ICE and Border Patrol as if they are the bad guy for trying to get the people who don't belong in this country out, this is a problem. They have got to go, and someone has got to get them out. And you cannot have American citizens out there getting in the way, being obnoxious agitators. And I said this on my last episode, I'll say it again. We've got a lot of people out there who don't have faith, who don't have family, who have nothing positive to cling to. And so they look for their tribe and they find it in these social justice circles. What I cannot stand more than anything, and what I mentioned on my last episode, when I outlined just a few of the American citizens who are victims of crimes from undocumented criminals, I cannot fathom how you've got all of these relenting celebrities, Ava Longoria, Bruce freaking Springsteen, I mean, the list, Natalie Portman, the list goes on and on. All of these people at award ceremonies recently, which who watches that shit anymore? I mean, let's be honest. They're out there wearing their Be Good pin. What does that do? You put a pin on your lapel and you are some social justice warrior. Pins get you nowhere. They get you nowhere. Okay. How many ribbons and pins have we put out there for other causes like breast cancer or like whatever? Have you guys looked into the American Cancer Society? Do you know where that money is actually going? I can't. Let's go back to these celebrities who are so quick to hop on their social medias. Jane Fonda. It's like her entire life is just looking for these moments. And they are so quick to go out there and talk about Renee Good and talk about Alex Pretti. But where are the celebrity outcries for Laken Riley, Rachel Morin, Kayla Hamilton, Jocelyn Nungungri, just to name a few, who were brutally murdered and some raped by perpetrators with prior records who were undocumented? I said it in my last episode. Please go back and listen to what those crimes were and the individuals who were picked up for those crimes, who had no business being here and who in many instances had prior arrests and were not previously deported under the Biden administration. If you are a mother, if you are a parent, and you are sitting there talking about the video of the 5-year-old boy who the left propagandized you into believing was just scooped up by ICE, this poor child. No, they were going after his father. His father ran away. And so they took the boy, they kept him safe, they fed him, they gave him games to play. His father ran away. He abandoned him. Now, I don't know. I'm not saying what I would do in that situation, but I sure as hell don't think I would leave my kid. And, you know, Tom Homan has made the argument many times that what happens if you are a mother or a father and you are driving while intoxicated and you kill someone, you run someone over, you hit someone, you kill them in an accident, and you are intoxicated? What happens to your children in that situation? Do you get to take them with you to prison? Would anybody be an advocate or a proponent of that? No, hell no. At the end of the day, if you commit a crime, you should be arrested or in the case of an undocumented migrant, you should be deported. Now, if you have children, guys, I'm a human being. I don't want to see families separated. Your children will go with you, right? And is this difficult for these children? Yes. And oftentimes, obviously, the kids are the victims of the crimes that their parents have committed, but that doesn't negate the fact that crimes were committed. Now, are there people out there being picked up and arrested who have no business being picked up and arrested? Yes, I'm not going to deny that. But that happened under Obama as well. Go back and check the record. Inevitably, when you're trying to perform this kind of an operation, the wrong people will get picked up, and all we can do is do our best to try and make that right. Going back to the celebrities out there, it's like, first of all, don't act like you have any idea what the rest of us are going through. Okay. When you have lived as a celebrity as long as you have in your multiple homes, in your compounds, with your private security, how dare you take to social media and pretend as if you have any clue what the average American is going through? And you're going to sit here again on your social justice train and make these videos about Pretti, about good, and crapping all over the Trump administration as if no Democrat administration has carried out deportation campaigns. I reminded you in my last episode and even gave you some exact quotes from Obama, from Clinton. The list goes on and on. And now, just because it doesn't support the narrative or because it helps the left and all of these ridiculous celebrities out here, it helps fuel their argument for Trump bad, which is what this really boils down to, ladies and gentlemen. Don't act like, for many of the people on the left, that it is the care. Okay. For many of the people on the left, it's just the fact that they hate Trump, they hate MAGA, and they hate the Trump agenda. Never before in the history of American presidents and deportation campaigns have we had this much footage going on. And this is one of the reasons that is making things blow extremely out of proportion. It is ruining some of these operations, and not because it's exposing what ICE is doing. In many instances, I wonder if things would be this bad if there weren't all these psychopath agitators out there getting in the way and just making things worse for the Border Patrol and ICE agents out there trying to do their job and keep your streets and mine safer. Again, I realize sometimes the wrong people get picked up. And then you want to have the argument about how they're targeting brown people. Okay, maybe they are. But if those brown people happen to be undocumented illegal immigrants, then there's nothing wrong with that. If you're given a photograph of someone and you're given information about them and you're told to track them down, well, that's what you're going to do. Like, you have to take color out of it. If a insane amount of these cases were truly just ICE agents out there scouring the streets looking for someone who might just happen to fit a profile and look illegal and going after them, and I'm not saying that's not happening. I know that in some cases it is, and we need to get a better handle on that. This is not perfect. There is no perfect way to deport people. But I remind you again, we have offered them money and transportation. We have literally offered to pay them and fly them and their families out. And many undocumented immigrants took advantage of this. And we gave them the opportunity to come back into the country legally. That is also a conversation for another podcast. I know that we can do better as a country with our immigration system, but that does not take away from the fact that, y'all, we cannot let millions upon millions of people into this country, especially at a time when we have so much social and civil unrest, especially at a time when millions upon millions, the majority of middle class America and lower class America, are literally struggling to put food on the table. Brainwashing leads to savagery. Protesters acting out for worthy causes, but at what cost to society? Okay, let's jump into the Don Lemon arrest. You guys know I feel like Don Lemon is one of the biggest virtue signaling hypocrites out there. I am just so turned off and disgusted by him as a human being. But as a journalist, journalists are given carte blanche many times to do things that maybe the average American wouldn't do under the guise of journalism. But what Don Lemon did going into that church with that group of people organized by Nakima Levy, I believe was her name. He knew what they were doing. He knew what was going to happen in that church. And this is all coming out on video. He was arrested on January 29th for violating the FACE Act and the Klan Act. Go back and listen to my previous episode where I break down what those acts actually encompass. During the January 18th church protest in St. Paul, which was targeting an ICE-affiliated pastor, he entered the sanctuary, he live streamed, and when he was asked to leave by the pastor, he didn't. He participated knowingly. He said things on camera like this is meant to make people uncomfortable because that's what protests do. Do you all realize that a woman broke her arm trying to leave that church out of fear? Do you all realize that people in this group were actually allegedly blocking people from going downstairs and getting their children and then screaming in the face of children, telling them that their parents were Nazis who were going to burn in hell? This is unbelievably traumatic. And again, as a parent, as an American citizen, how can that not absolutely floor and disgust you? If someone did that to my child, the rage that would build in my belly is unfathomable. And in a place of worship, I have heard many people make the comparison that if some right-leaning journalist went into a mosque and this happened, the left would be in an uproar. So again, ladies and gentlemen, the hypocrisy on both sides of the political aisle is disgusting. And this is why I implore you, I am begging you to find alternative news sources. Ground News is one of those sources. I can give you many others. Go back and listen to some of my episodes, but at least Ground News will literally show you with a pretty little chart if it's right-leaning, left-leaning, or right in the middle. Please, before you jump to conclusions, don't fall for the clickbait. Some of the things that I've been hearing about the Don Lemon arrest is how there was a magistrate judge, among many others, who rejected Don Lemon's charges. But one thing you will not hear on left-leaning outlets is the fact that there are potential conflicts of interest from that magistrate judge, okay? His wife works for the the Minnesota AG, Keith Ellison, who is a huge anti-ICE individual. And prejudice the case where the DOJ vows to pursue, we're going to the ends of the earth, and the left media ignores this, but the right media amplifies this. While the First Amendment does defend free speech, there's a level of participation that crosses the line when you enter not only an abortion clinic, but a place of worship. Lemon knew this, and he teetered on an edge, and now he has been arrested, and hopefully the law plays out, because we need to make an example of journalists like Don Lemon who think that it is okay to breach what you know is wrong and go into a church and act this way. And let's also not forget the fact that while he was interviewing the pastor, he was getting incredibly close to him. There was a lot of shouting going on in the background. And the pastor put his hand on Don Lemon. And of course, Don Lemon was like, I'm trying to be respectful. Don't push me. Just completely blowing up the fact that the pastor had his hand on him, and maybe he was pushing him away, but it wasn't like it was an aggressive like push, like get off me. It was probably like, dude, you're invading my personal space and I don't want you in my house of worship while I'm trying to conduct my sermon. Get out. And when he asked him to leave, he still didn't leave. Okay. So the gaps on the far right and the far left, things that they're not talking about. Number one, mental health in radicalization. Both sides ignore how isolation, loss of community, loss of religion, and not to mention the social media algorithms amplify these echo chambers, turning good life into boredom and extremism. I mentioned this earlier in the episode. Federal agent accountability. You've got the far left fixating on police brutality without noticing Pretti's gun or prior aggressions. Now, it's not illegal for him to have that gun on him. But why, y'all? Why did he show up with that gun being an agitator? He's literally looking for a fight. And you can say he showed up with that gun for protection, but his behavior points to another set of reasoning. Far right defends agents blindly, ignoring the DOJ civil rights probes and escalating and escalation failures. Excuse me. They need body cams. There is a disproportionate force for low-level targets, but again, this is what you're going to get from both the left and the right. The economic realities for migrants and Americans. These outlets always gloss over why migrants decline deportation offers, or how the U.S. has helped them along the way with different humanitarian efforts to try to get them out of here safely and financially, and ignoring the positive economic contributions on the right from undocumented or documented immigrants, for that matter. Medical and judicial conflicts. So you've got the left who's downplaying Miko's potential bias. Again, the wife with ties to anti-ICE Ellison. And then you've got the right overlooking border judicial reforms that are totally needed for impartiality in these politicized cases. Bipartisan solutions. Neither party discusses cross-aisle ideas like better de-escalation, training for agents, or streamlined legal pathways to reduce undocumented burdens. And what is worth considering? The gaps that we have right now to humanize the chaos. Again, this is your reminder that propaganda thrives on omission, leading you to fill in the gaps of the real dialogue based solely on the fast clips that you're seeing online or on the news. Now, as I wrap up this episode of What a Fuster Cluck, remember, in a world that is drowning in propaganda, the real radicals aren't just the ones storming churches or streets. They're the ones who let clickbait change their minds. Alex Pretti's death, the deportation debates, and Don Lemon's hypocrisy, they all scream the same truth. We have traded faith, community, and critical thinking for tribal wars that serve no one but the powerful. But you can break free. You can be the independent thinker that devours multiple sources, that questions every narrative, and sets aside ideology for sanity. You can hold politicians accountable, not with savagery, but with your vote, your voice, and your vigilance. Because if we don't, the next worthy cause might just radicalize you. So thank you for tuning in. Stay skeptical. Stay human. Ask questions. And until next time, what a Fuster Cluck indeed. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and email me, whatafustercluck@gmail.com. I want to hear from you. Did I get something wrong? Did I misstate a fact? Tell me your thoughts. I absolutely love hearing from you, and I cannot get better as a podcaster or whatever it is I'm doing here, all things What a Fuster Cluck, unless I hear from you. And so I just want to say thank you to everyone who has continued to listen and to share, to subscribe, to follow. What a Fuster Cluck is available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. I am your host, Lolita Keys. And until next Monday, have a great week, everybody, and think critically.